Ahoy hoy, I'm Planarwalk, and if there's something that I'd have to say would be equally as ridiculous as Flat Earth, it'd be creationism. And it's not just because they both make no useful predictions about the nature of our universe, and it's not just because they both rely on magic either. The main reason why I think creationism is pretty ridiculous is because it denies a lot of science. Yet a lot of that science that it just so happens to like denying is science that it uses to back up its claims.
Clap, clap, clap.
Now, before I get anyone saying, but evolution is just a theory. First off, go and have a look at what the actual definition of a scientific theory is. Second off, germ theory is just a theory too. Or do you not wash your hands after you take a shit? Also, the main sort of creationists I'm going to be addressing in this video will be Christian creationists. So one of the most amusing ones to me is that a lot of creationists like to discount the fields of geology and paleontology, except when it's convenient for them. Take, for example, an extinction event that happened some 12,000 odd years ago. Many creationists will use this as evidence for the flood of Noah. However, this falls apart immediately when you realise that the mass extinction event happened 12,000 years ago and the flood of Noah is supposed to take place about 4,000 years ago. That's an 8,000 year difference. Also, scientists aren't saying that it was a global flood that caused this extinction event. Another claim creationists like to make in support of the flood of Noah is the fact that there's fossils in very high places such as at the top of mountains. How can this be? This fails to take into account that we have a very in-depth understanding of how plate tectonics work. We know where the tectonic plate boundaries are. We know where the fault lines are. Not all of them, but a lot of them we do. We know how earthquakes are caused. We know how volcanoes erupt. We know all this stuff. And using that knowledge, we can figure out that the land masses were completely different many years in the past. We also know that the movement of the tectonic plates can cause the formation of things like mountains. So maybe you can start to understand why we might find fossils high up in mountains. Another claim that creationists like to make is that radiocarbon dating is not reliable. The reason they say this is because radiocarbon dating can't date objects older than 50,000 years. But you know, it's only the person that came up with the idea of radiocarbon dating that said, you know, we can only use this up to 20,000 years in the past. Later, we worked out better technology, so we could extend that up to 50,000 years. And yes, we have used radiocarbon dating to date objects older than 6,000 years. And lastly, a lot of creationists like to say that macroevolution doesn't exist, yet microevolution is necessary for their arc story. Because there are millions of species alive today, and there is no way that millions of species could fit on that arc. So what a lot of creationists like to say is, oh, they only needed 2 of each kind, not 2 of every species. Of course they can barely define what a kind even is. But it just goes to show that they're perfectly fine with accepting that one type of species can slowly turn into another type of species over time. But when it comes to something like a dinosaur slowly transitioning into a bird, they're like, bah, that's nonsense. What are you, out of your mind? Now I'm sure there's probably many other examples of creationists taking one bit of science which supports their worldview, whilst dismissing the bigger body of science that is contained within. These were just the first examples that I could think of off the top of my head. So leave a like and subscribe if you like this video. Leave a comment of what examples you can think of where a creationist will use a small part of science whilst ignoring the bigger body. If you'd like to support me, you can do so on Patreon. But anyway, I will see you in the next video. Between you and me, thank you for watching.